You're aware that the opal is Australia's national gemstone, the lucky gem from the lucky country. And you're probably aware too that De Beers tried to turn it into a bad luck gemstone when they commissioned Sir Walter Scott to write the novel Anne of Geierstein. And in this fictional novel, this Queen of Spain, Anne of Geierstein, was given an opal and then had a run of bad luck until she died. Pure fiction, but it did take a bit of hold. It was a bestseller at the time. And De Beers were trying to remove opal as the gem of preference for ladies to wear as engagement rings and for adornment, to replace them with diamonds. Well, they succeeded. However, it's not that bad a thing, because if opals had retained its popularity from the 1800s until now, there'd be no opal left because it's so rare. So there is an aspect of bad luck about opal. It's very bad luck if you do not own one.
G'day, my name's Jason Blakelock from Australian Opal Cutters, and I'd like to talk to you today about Australian opal. Why is it that we're so passionate about Australian opal, and why is it that we promote Australian opal all over the world? Little known fact is that Australian opal, or opal with a pattern and with colour in it, is actually 5,000 times rarer than diamond. 5,000 times. So those two elements again are recognisable pattern, natural opal with gem colour. Now gem colour is the sort of colour that you can see when you use the miner's test. The miner's test is when you take your hand, cup it out of the bright light, put the opal underneath and just sort of have a look at the colour in the semi-dark. If it's still got that bright fire, red, blue, green fire, orange fire, any fire at all, and it still leaps out of the opal at that point, that's one of the two elements. But then if it's got a pattern, and there's a whole range of patterns, but patterns are where there's a repeatable spectrum or shape to the actual colour. And you can check our website for more about patterns. But pattern and gem colour actually position opal, natural opal, in that band of rarity, 5,000 times more rare than a diamond. Now we calculate that purely on the quantity available. So literally, if you look at a D flawless diamond or a pink diamond, and then you look at a gem black opal colour with gem colour and a pattern, 5,000 times rarer. So of course we want the world to know about it. Of course we want to send them all over the world. And that's why opals are appropriate, Australian opals, in any country on earth to be presented, because diamonds that you get are available all over the world, and they're shipped all over the world, they're sold all over the world. So we wanted to just give you this little introduction to why opal is a must-have gemstone for this century. You know, it's one of the last gems that has actually been discovered. All the other gems, rubies and emeralds and tanzanite, they've all been around for centuries, but not opal. It was like there have been opals discovered 100,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, but only as a gemstone in the industry has it been known for about 100 years, about the late 1800s. It was actually the first mines were actually opened up, and some Australian miners actually took opals to England and tried to promote them, but they were so bright, so colourful, so incredible that the industry thought they must be fake. How can you have a gem that has all the colours of every other gemstone? It's too good to be true. That's literally what the original opal miners were told. This is too good to be true. Today, however, we know that opal is the ultimate gemstone, with the red of ruby, the green of emerald, the blue of sapphire, all scintillating, as Pliny the Elder in the 1st century said, in one gemstone. Now, something else you might not know is that opal is the only gem in the world where you're actually, literally holding a rainbow in your hands. When you hold an opal gemstone, you're actually holding hydrated silica. It's silica, it's rock. It's basically a gemstone, a stone. But in between every molecule, water molecules are trapped. Tiny microscopic water molecules, but they are aligned so perfectly that they actually split light into the colours of the spectrum. Now they form rainbows. This is exactly the same process that occurs when a rainbow is formed in the sky. Identical. The light hits the droplets that are suspended in air, forming these beautiful rainbows. But in opal, we're actually watching it trapped, suspended forever inside stone. Isn't that incredible? I mean, how amazing is that? You can actually hold a rainbow. You've all heard the story about chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This is a rainbow that you can hold. And unlike any other gemstone, the rainbow is trapped inside. No other gem does that. Other gems depend on faceting or chemicals to create different colours, not opal. Opal actually traps it inside the gem. So these two elements are literally revolutionising the gem industry. And I wanted to mention them because sometimes you might find unscrupulous opal resellers or retailers presenting opal that looks incredible but is very inexpensive. Some examples are Ethiopian opal or created opal, which is essentially a fancy, very sophisticated form of plastic. Now, Ethiopian opal is beautiful. It's stunning, no doubt about it. But it goes through a very intense treating process. It's treated, it's heated, sometimes resins are introduced that literally transform the colour and the stability of the gemstone. Now, that makes it very beautiful, but not authentic. Australian opal, black opal, boulder opal, crystal opal, however, is natural. It is a natural gemstone that's never been treated. It is stable. What you see is what you get. And there is a huge difference between the two. It's like saying, I've got a diamond, but then I've got a man-made diamond. Which one's worth more? Well, of course the natural diamond is worth far more than a man-made or a simulant. Ethiopian opal, while it's opal, has been treated with these processes that actually substantially make it different than Australian natural opal. And it's really important to know the two, because if you don't know, it's like looking at a man-made diamond, a natural diamond. The layman, you and I, we wouldn't know any different. We can't tell a difference, but not so with opal. So it's really important to make sure that you're getting a natural Australian gem opal, because then you'll know that it hasn't been treated. And look, once you get that, you're actually buying something that is literally undervalued. Now that's a whole other topic for another day, but all opal is undervalued. And there's a reason for that, because it's all based on supply and demand. See, gemstones like diamond and others have bodies that regulate price. They actually decide on the price, and there's trading guidelines and price points that are determined by international bodies. It's actually a controlled commodity. Not so with opal. Opal is incredibly archaic in as an industry. It's a baby, it's an infant in the gem industry. I mean, literally the opal miners are still husbands and wives that have literally been doing it for 30, 40 years with picks, shovels and little drills. I mean, it literally is a cottage, it's an infant industry, as opposed to some of these massive, big, internationally managed gemstone industries. So opal's like, I would suggest it's like the poor cousin of the gem industry that's finally come into its inheritance. It's finally come into its day, where today all around the world people are discovering this gemstone for the first time and realising that when you buy an opal, you're actually buying something that is 100% unique. So you buy a ruby, you buy an emerald, they're beautiful and they're all green. They're all identical. I mean, you cannot often tell the difference between 1,000 emeralds. They all look the same because they are the same. But every single opal is unique. Isn't that fascinating? Every single one has its own fingerprint, its own signature, its own unique imprint inside the molecules. The design and the layout of the molecules and the way the colour moves is unique, like a fingerprint for every single one. And we like to think that because it's our absolute privilege to bring these opals to you, that you'll actually get what we call opal fever. That once you actually hold a rainbow in your hand and realise that it's unique and 5,000 times rarer than a diamond, you'll actually be hooked, like us. And you'll tell your friends, you'll tell everyone else, look, I am holding a rainbow in my hand. I've actually got my own rainbow and it's mine. It belongs to me. It belongs to no one else. And it's unique, just like me. And that's what we love. We love matching up opals with unique people just like you and giving you a real treasure, a genuine treasure, something that really has true value from the heart of Australia.
Opal has a rich and fascinating history. Born from the red dust of the Australian outback, this is a gemstone that is literally one of the most valuable gemstones on Earth.
The elusive Black Opal, the only gemstone in the world that has a rainbow on the inside, that has pictures and colours and patterns like no other gemstone. These fascinating little mullock heaps are refilled prospectors holes that go down more than 15 metres, and on average they reckon it takes 3,500 of these to find one parcel of opal with colour. Awesome. There's a claim here to my right which is big mullock heap. I brought all this dirt up from the little hole there. So all this dirt behind me has been removed to find these very small, slender seams of opal. And really what the mine is looking for is colour, spectral colour, not just grey or crystal or white or black even. Little seam will be no more than an inch wide. So difficult, it's got to shift this sort of quantity of clay to find those seams, or perhaps seams that have broken into knobbies, little pebbles, which are even more difficult to find than a seam. So you see a little black knobby or a grey knobby, then of course you've got to investigate it and just keep hoping. Are you aware that opal occurs in what's called the Great Artesian Basin, which used to be the huge inland sea that covered such a huge proportion of inland Australia? This Great Artesian Basin was filled up with seawater. Of course it had fish and whales, and even back then dinosaurs, which of course as they died fell to the bottom of the sea, began to disintegrate, and the water evaporated, and so then the dust covered and the silt covered the basin, so that the basin's now no longer an inland sea, but filled with cracks and crevices, inside which there were fossils now, fossilized bones, which allowed opal to seep inside and actually become opalized fossils by opal replacement of the fossils. So uniquely in the gemstone world we have opal fossils that have been turned into opal. This is unique in the gemstone world, and of course the Australian opal fields are the only fields in which this occurs, which makes the whole subject of opal and opal itself so much more unique, so much more exciting, and of course so much more beautiful. Being in the jewellery industry since 1967, I've seen acres of rubies, acres of emeralds, acres of sapphires, tons of diamonds, and little pieces, little pockets, little corners of opal. And that's the uniqueness and the rarity of opal.
Australian opal is like no other gem. It is incredibly beautiful, and on a molecular level is the only gemstone on Earth where you can hold a rainbow in your hand.
When you see a rainbow in the sky, opal is the only gemstone where you hold a rainbow in your hand. And here's how it happened. This miraculous diffraction grating, this array of molecular clusters of hydrated silica that take white light and split the white light through the molecular structure into a rainbow. Just like a rainbow in the sky, except these are trapped inside of opal. The only gemstone that you can hold, literally hold, a rainbow in your hand. white light moving through this diffraction grating. These up to 30 nanometer clusters of hydrated silica molecule clusters which take white light and split them into the colours of the spectrum, miraculously dependent upon the tiny size of these molecular clusters. The larger ones, relatively speaking 30 nanometers, that turn white light into red and orange down to the indigo and violet end of the spectrum. This is the uniqueness of a rainbow held in your hand and then patterned and an array that is just so infinitely variable that nothing else in the gem world even comes near it.
A rainbow in the sky is formed because water molecules are trapped in air. In opal, the water molecules are trapped in between silica molecules. Australian opal does the same thing as a rainbow. Every other gem depends on faceting or chemicals to generate rainbow colours. For every 130 million carats of diamond produced, only 1 million carats, or 200 kilograms, of opal is mined. The loss factor in cutting can be as high as 95%.
You might be floating in the ocean right now, but believe it or not, I'm standing on an inland sea. As the waters receded away into the depths, down towards the Artesian Basin, the silica in the ground accumulated with the water and formed in pockets and various faults, and even filled up the natural holes left by fossils to form pockets of opal. Who knows what's below us? That's the challenge, to find it. Rare, gem quality, black Australian opal right here in the middle of Australia at Lightning Ridge. This is where it all began.
In ages past, the interior of Australia was made up of an inland sea, and as the water receded, this resulted in fine marine sands, rich in silica, being deposited on the ever-changing shoreline. Extensive weathering, acting upon the stratified sediment, released large quantities of soluble silica and voids and cracks in the ground, enabling the silica-rich solution to flow down, and these are where the opal forms.
Opal mining, you never lose the love. You're always an opal miner, and you just want to keep coming back if you can, and if the wife lets you.
It's a little known fact that Australia produces 96% of the gemstones that are able to be mined worldwide. From pink diamonds to Australian South Sea pearls, jade, gold, sapphires, emeralds, and scores of other gems. Australia has one of the richest concentrations of precious gemstones found anywhere on Earth. Arguably, the most valuable, however, is the national gemstone of Australia, the noble opal. Opal has a rich and fascinating history. Born from the red dust of the Australian outback, this is a gemstone that is literally one of the most valuable gemstones on Earth. Known as the Queen of Gems, opal is the third most valuable gemstone on Earth beside blue tanzanite, and an incredibly rare Australian gem called taphite. Australian opal is like no other gem. It is incredibly beautiful, and on a molecular level is the only gemstone on Earth where you can hold a rainbow in your hand. The only gems on Earth that capture rainbows literally. A rainbow in the sky is formed because water molecules are trapped in air. In opal, the water molecules are trapped in between silica molecules. Australian opal does the same thing as a rainbow, except the water is stationary rather than moving. Every other gem depends on faceting or chemicals to generate rainbow colours. Inside an opal, the unique diffraction grating of the opal molecules trap microscopic water molecules to split light and create microscopic rainbows, which, unlike a transitory rainbow in the sky, remain trapped inside a gemstone. This is literally what opal colour is, rainbows that have been suspended in a gemstone stone. Within the opal family, there are an infinite variety of colours, shapes, sizes, cutting styles, and a range of types. Boulder opal originates in the Queensland region. White opal is from South Australia, and black opal is only found in Lightning Ridge. It's called black opal because it has a black base caused by black or grey iron oxide in the opal. This black potch, or common opal, has no less value unless we find a colour bar on top of it. The colour bar, or the play of colour of black opal, comes in all the colours of a rainbow, with red being the rarest and most expensive. An important early description of opal is that of Pliny the Elder, who lived in the 1st century AD. Pliny wrote an extensive treatise entitled Natural History. He describes opal as being made up of the glories of the most precious gems. To describe them is a matter of inexpressible difficulty, for there is amongst them the gentler fire of the ruby, there is the rich purple of the amethyst, there is the sea green of the emerald, and all shining together on an indescribable union. Others, by an excessive heightening of their hues, equal all the colours of the painter. Others, the flame of burning brimstone, or of a fire quickened by oil. Opal was held in great value by the Romans, a fact which is reflected in the well-known story of the Roman senator Nonius. He is said to have possessed a very fine opal about the size of a hazelnut and valued at 20,000 sesterces. The stone was so beautiful that the Roman emperor demanded that Nonius hand over the opal, whether by purchase or gift is not recorded. Nonius himself held the stone in such high regard that he departed from Rome with his gemstone, leaving his wife, family and property behind him. The home of Black Opal, a rural town in northwestern New South Wales, Australia, known as Lightning Ridge, is said to have originated when, in the 1870s, some passers-by found the bodies of a farmer, his dog, and 200 sheep which had been struck by lightning. White settlers may have seen opal as early as the 1880s. Mining didn't begin until 1901 or 1902. The first opal rush occurred in 1905 on the long ridge near Wollongilla Tank. Lightning Ridge's future wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for a person called Charles Nettleton, who was a former gold miner travelling from the White Cliffs via Lightning Ridge in the year 1901. He camped with the Ryan family, who accidentally picked up and showed Charles some fiery black stones, which later became well known as Black Opal. He had an idea that they were opals, and he was mesmerized. He had never seen such an incredible play of color in any other gemstone. Charles Nettleton started his first shaft in 1902. In 1903, he moved across to a different area and found a large parcel of quality opals. Not knowing what they were worth, he showed the opals to a leading Sydney dealer, but the darkness of the stone did not impress the dealer at all. He offered only $1 for the lot. Although his attempt did not succeed, Charles Nettleton never gave up and instead became more determined to keep the opal fields alive. He continued searching for more opal and tried to sell what he had left. Charles Nettleton decided to walk to White Cliffs, where opal miners and dealers first started gathering for daily deals. In 1903, he met an opal merchant who offered him $30 for his black opal parcel, a much better deal than what he'd got earlier, and all his hard work had finally paid off. In the 1920s and 1930s, the opal was the engagement ring gemstone of choice, as it was exceptionally rare and stunningly beautiful. It's alleged that the diamond cartel De Beers attempted to discredit opal by hiring a novelist named Sir Walter Scott to write a novel about the Queen of Spain, who had a run of bad luck after being given an opal. The story turned out to be a bestseller. De Beers then purchased highly productive opal mines in Hungary and shut them down, claiming that the opal had run out. It's alleged that the De Beers consortium also started a rumour that the Australian opal was fake because the colours were too incredible to be real. Queen Victoria, however, did a lot to reverse these false statements. She became a lover of opals and wore them throughout her reign. Her friends and her 5 daughters were presented with opals, and because the royals were regarded as the model for fashion, the opals were once again highly sought after. In the later years of her reign, various Australian opal fields were expanded, and their treasures shared with the royal family. Through the 1920s, a government scheme paid miners $1 a foot to sink shafts. In the 1940s and 50s, a syndicate of graziers sank an artesian bore, and in the 1960s, miners began to wash their opal dirt. Productivity increased, and the population began to grow again. The seeds of a new wave of immigrants to Lightning Ridge were sown by the Commonwealth Government's support of mass immigration from Europe in the aftermath of the Second World War. During the 1960s and 70s, people from all corners of Europe and as immigration expanded from Turkey and Lebanon found their way to Lightning Ridge. Eastern Europeans, particularly from the former Yugoslavia, were one of the largest groups. This was an era of development and expansion for the town. It was connected to electricity and artesian bore water, and a bitumen road was built. There was greater mechanization of mining, and a new opal market was opened up with Japan. The uniqueness of the opal extends further than just the physical stone that miners toil for and magnificent stones you see on display in opal shops, and the stunning pieces created by specialist jewelry artisans. The creation of the opal is so unique that it requires a special series of specific geological, climatic and biological elements to coincide to enable the formation of this elusive gem, and as such is only found in a few places around the world. Australia is fortunate to be one of those places, and our central desert regions account for around 96% of the international opal supply. The phenomena that contribute to the formation of opal is still a scientific mystery. In ages past, the interior of Australia was made up of an inland sea, and as the water receded, this resulted in deposits of fine marine sands, rich in silica, being deposited on the ever-changing shoreline. Extensive weathering, acting upon the stratified sediment, released large quantities of soluble silica and voids and cracks in the ground, enabling the silica-rich solution to flow down, and these are where the opal forms. Additionally, as organic matter of plants and animals was laid down into the sediment during the Cretaceous period, and that in turn decomposed, the solution also filled these spaces to form the much prized fossilized opal. This process is very slow. However, opalized fence posts have been discovered that are less than 200 years old. The resultant gemstone is a non-crystallized silica, similar to quartz, but is not a mineral. Its internal structure enables unique diffraction of light to produce white, grey, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, magenta, rose, pink, slate, olive, brown and black. This is literally a scintillating rainbow with colours that ebb and flow with the same complexity and the same molecular biology as the rainbow that you see in the sky. However, these rainbows are held, suspended or trapped inside the crystalline structure of the hydrated silica opal molecules. This is why you hold a rainbow in your hand when you hold an opal. Due to the unique nature of its formation, there are no steadfast rules or reasons how and where it is formed. And as such, opal mining is not an exact science. Many people, especially miners, equate opal mining as playing the lottery, but with a lot of digging. In 1967, Jack Musgrave Blakelock began trading as a wholesaler throughout Australia and New Zealand with his son Graham Blakelock. In those years, Graham cut his teeth as a wholesale jewellery sales rep. Many of the principles and strategies employed by Australian opal cutters began there. In the early 1970s, Graham had a thriving company and for many years has traded very successfully. His sons, at the tender ages of 10 and 9, were often employed weekends at the generous rate of $10 an hour, handing out brochures for the Castlereagh Street store. Over 30 years later, Australian Opal Cutters is a world leader in the manufacture and promotion of Australian opals, serving customers from almost every nation on earth. Black opal is possibly 130 times rarer than diamond. For every 130 million carats of diamond produced, only 1 million carats, or 200 kilograms, of opal is mined. And from this rough, the loss factor in cutting can be as high as 95%. That's in black opal. You may have heard that tanzanite is 1,000 times rarer than diamond. This is suggested because there are 100 miles of tanzanite mines worldwide. And when compared to the 100,000 miles of diamond mines worldwide, tanzanite is 1,000 times rarer than diamond. As there are only 20 square miles of black opal mining, black opal is actually 5,000 times rarer than diamond. The Boulder opal is one of the rarest and most valuable forms of opal found in Australia and makes up less than 5% of all opal mined. It is very sparsely distributed through southwest Queensland. It is predicted that Boulder opal is going to run out in the next 10 years because of the difficulty clearing native title and EPA requirements of rehabilitation. Native title is the process of gaining agreement from the local Aboriginal tribes before mining takes place. This is an extremely difficult and time-consuming process. Added to this is the EPA requirement that all mines need to be backfilled and trees planted when the mining is finished. This process alone can send a miner bankrupt if he has not found colour in his dig. Added to this are the onerous paperwork requirements with enough forms to sink a ship. The average miner just does not have enough motivation to comply with all the government regulations. So, as a result, there are fewer and fewer miners on the field. Boulder opal is formed in the cracks and crevices of the ironstone boulders in a gel form, possibly as recently as hundreds of years ago. And with the passing of centuries, this jelly opal turned solid. And as you can see, we're left with some beautiful Boulder opal specimens. Boulder opal occurs as a filling between the concentric layers or in random crevices in the ironstone. The cutting process is extremely difficult as the cutter must navigate the hills and valleys of the Boulder opal surface. What we are left with is an incredibly unique and individual gemstone. The Boulder opal has a high loss factor when cutting, as we only yield 5% and has a rock waste factor of 95%. It is also the only opal suggested to run out within the next 5 to 10 years, and with the value, it's suggested, increasing by 15 to 25% each year, the Boulder opal can certainly make a sound, long-term investment. This stunning Boulder opal split specimen was presented as a gift to His Royal Highness the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Prince Charles and Camilla, to celebrate their visits to Australia. Valuing opal is extremely complex. Forget the 4 C's, opal, or the 5 virtues of pearl. Opal requires a detailed examination of over 13 characteristics to assess value. These include variety, body tone, brightness, transparency, colour, hue, outline or shape, profile or cut, pattern, display, directional or multidirectional, distribution of colour as a percentage, inclusions, clarity, carat weight. This valuation process is incredibly complex. However, if you just remember the miner's test, you can check at least 2 of the 13 characteristics, brightness and body tone. Take your opal out into the bright light and just cup it in your hand to shade it slightly. If you see red, fire or green fire, you are looking at gem quality colour. And as these are 2 of the greatest drivers of value, you have confirmed that this is gem opal colour. Coober Pedy was discovered in 1915. This is where most of the whites or milky and crystal opals, together known as light opal, are mined. Coober Pedy is the main producer of white precious opal, which is predominantly seen in stores overseas, particularly in the USA. Today the opal fields encompass an area of approximately 45 kilometres. The opal level is formed of soft pinkish clay mixed with soft bleached sandstone. The name Coober Pedy is an Aboriginal word that translates man in a hole, and with temperatures around 40 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit all year, the cool underground mines have become popular as living quarters, and now most of the locals live underground. The next type of opal we cut is crystal opal. Crystal opal is pure hydrated silica. It's translucent, so you can see straight through it. We prefer the colour to be multi-directional, so that you can see colour from all different angles. The second thing we prefer is large blocks of colour, and the third thing is strong play of colour that shows up in the dark. Patterns in opal are very important. There are numerous named patterns: pinfire, broad flash, harlequin, rolling mackerel, just to name a few. This is where the molecular structure is so perfect, it provides repetitive display, creating a pattern. These patterns are very rare and valuable, and something to look for when you purchase an opal. Can you pick the difference between a doublet, triplet, or solid opal? If you're looking for an opal gem that has all the characteristics of a top $1 million black opal, but at a price you can afford, then doublets and triplets are for you. A doublet is a thin layer of crystal opal with a layer of potch. Black common opal SiO2 NH20, an amorphous mineraloid comprising of hydrated silicon dioxide, a mix of silica and water, or ironstone on the back, which acts to bring out the colour of the opal. The backing layer acts in the same way a black thundercloud does with a rainbow. If you've ever seen a rainbow in the sky with a white cloud behind it, the colour is quite pale. When a deep, dark, black thundercloud passes behind the rainbow, the darkness of the cloud acts as a contrast to the bright colour, and the appearance of the colour is accentuated. Therefore, natural black opal, or opal without colour, which is known as potch, is used to create this thundercloud effect. Black opal potch also has great value as a backing for an opal doublet, because to make quality opal doublets that won't delaminate, we need to use materials with the same coefficient of expansion. In the 1960s, plastic was used for the backing of the back of the opal to make an opal doublet or triplet. As the two different materials expand and contract at different rates in cold and heat, the layers often worked apart, and as the delaminating occurs, moisture can also come between the layers, eventually dissolving the adhesive bonding and finally affect appearance of the color of the opal, as the transparent opal veneer has been separated from the black background that allowed the color to appear at its most vivid. Today, we manufacture our opal doublets with black opal or boulder opal as the base, not plastic. So all of the elements have the same coefficient of expansion. Because of this, and the use of silica-based glues, the same glue used by NASA, we can offer a lifetime guarantee against delamination, and we have never had a customer return a doublet or a triplet because of this process of bonding opal to opal. A lifetime guarantee applies to our opal triplets because they have 3 silicates with identical coefficients of expansion, so they won't delaminate. Triplets are a doublet with a crystal quartz cap on the top, which acts to magnify and enhance the color of the opal and provide a strong, resilient cap. The domed quartz crystal cap has a higher reflective index than the opal. It actually magnifies the colors of the opal up, and because it's en cabochon, it also magnifies the pattern of the opal. Australian opal cutters are confident that you'll find the finest products and the highest customer service. Their collection is over 10,000 pieces of opal. Opal set into jewelry rings, pendants, earrings, and thousands of loose opal. Every piece is cut, polished, and set to perfection. This collection has been refined over many years, and you, the customer, have told us what you like and what you don't like. So our ranges reflect sophisticated elegance or contemporary modern styles. There is a piece to suit every taste and every occasion. At Australian Opal Cutters, we understand that a piece of jewellery is an incredibly personal purchase, and we want to match you with your perfect opal. We're available at any time to provide you with advice and guidance, no matter which stage of the process you're at. Our service guarantee is an international lifetime warranty that is carefully defined on our website, www.australianopalcutters.com. Because we're essentially a family business, care and personal service is extremely important. So whether you're from the USA or the UK, we'll be able to repair, remodel, or renew designs for years to come under our international lifetime warranty policy. Quality is what differentiates Australian Opal Cutters from the rest. When you think of quality, you think of old-fashioned craftsmanship. Our jewellers have a strict quality control policy that includes checking for minute burr marks, setting strength, level, and proportion, the solidity and gluing of stone settings, checking that there's no movement or any looseness in the gem setting. Our company policy is, we do not rest until you are happy. All our jewellery comes with a certificate of authenticity, providing you with 100% complete confidence in the quality of your purchase. Every 2 years, we re-evaluate your purchase free of charge and send you an updated certificate. The International Lifetime Warranty covers all workmanship and manufacturing. We also have an at-cost replacement guarantee for any accidental damage or loss. We have an exceptional international warranty and customer service guarantee. There's a 2-year warranty on all workmanship and an at-cost replacement guarantee for any accidental damage or loss.
Opal is just a fascinating. It's unbelievable stand. You know, it's the best gemstone to me in the world.
She is very elusive, but our opal here is the most expensive, and it deserves to be, because those vivid colors, you don't see those colors in any other gem. There is no other gem on the planet that comes near it when it comes to beauty.
Anybody can have the biggest diamond or the brilliant diamond, doesn't matter what size, what it is, anybody can get about the same one. But you have a piece of a stone in your ring or you carry it, no one can have one exactly the same. Never. It's something special you got. Nobody can have the same.
The contrast between the characters, larger-than-life men digging dirt and protecting their turf, and the bush justice that they deal out if somebody rats their mine. The finished product, the beautiful polished opal on the finger or around the neck of a beautiful woman, is quite a contrast. Two different ends of a spectrum. This small parcel of nodules, or knobbies as they're called, and they're black without colour. No spectral colours, so no value. And this is what most of it looks like. And this is a little with a green flash. That's a lot better. And here's a very nice one with green flash. Much better. The spectral colours on the black, and there's one here, got a nice red face. Red and green face. That's the point of the search. This is what we're looking for. This is a knobby with colour. This is a beauty. This is green and orange. Lovely. That's the sort of knobby that everybody's hoping to find all the time. Find very, very, very rarely. But the search continues.
5% of the miners will ever see opal underground, and 95 will never see it underground. They'll see it in town in other miners' hands. It's very elusive. It's not that easy to find opal.
That's a nice parcel. Well, mantle and tissue has long dissolved and gone. It's been replaced by opal. Could be.
That last in the bottom, it's a ball.
This is a bone, yeah. I've been cutting opals now for 40 years, and it never ceases to amaze me how unique and beautiful opal is, and the fascination and the virtual miracle of a gemstone that 40 feet under the ground would be harbouring art like this, natural art like this, where just a random array has settled to produce something like this. It's absolutely spectacular. Just how that happens, only God knows.
Here we are, attempting to expose the colour that's there, and eureka! This has not only got colour, this is turning out to be something really, really special.
That's really remarkable. This is the only fossil that I've ever seen. It's a fossil and eye of opal. So where the mantle tissue and the tissue of the shellfish in this marine animal was, we have opal deposited. That is really, really remarkable. This layer of crystal opal on top, which looks like salt sea water, and the water never dried up, instead solidified. Again, part of this remarkable piece. This is such a rare fossil that it defies definition. Once we've found the colour, polished the opal, We have to set it to perfection. We have designers who do a perfect job. The emphasis is normally the opal. So we work very hard in producing really special designs to fit really special opals.
You just got to find that next stone, because the adrenaline gland had hit so hard when you found that last lot that you just want it to happen again. I went down a hole. I was down there for about 5 or 10 minutes and came up. I went straight back down again, and ever since then they couldn't get me out of a hole.
This is Cooper's Cottage. I reckon Mr. Cooper was the first man in the world to get opal fever. It's contagious. I caught it in 1967 and I've still got it today. Fantastic opal, doesn't it? First time I saw it and showed it to my mate who's been in the opal business for as long as I have, or longer, we were both staggered. We were just amazed at how good it looks, and the directional colour, multi-directional colour, and you know, just amazing. But we were looking at one piece when we saw lots of them that all looked the same, and then of course we knew the game was up. But you know, it just could not be natural. It's just totally impossible to get the same colour. Even just as impossible as saying, look at my fingerprint, now let me show you 100 others that are just exactly the same, because opal is as varied as fingerprints, so it's never all the same. I remember as being in Jerusalem and seeing a range of this and saying to the retailer there in Jerusalem, what sort of opal's that? And he said, beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful Australian opal. I said, is that all just Australian opal? He said, yeah, beautiful Australian opal. I said, cover your head. Might get struck by lightning in Jerusalem telling lies like that. Whether he knew or not, I'm not sure. But that's how you can tell it. It's all the same. You never get opal that's all the same. So this is not even synthetic opal. This is simulant opal. It's similar looking to opal, but that's about the only thing that's similar about it with opal. It's certainly lab created, but the resin content of it takes it right out of the opal game. It is not opal. Anybody that tells you that it is needs to be tried, prosecuted and judged. So we'll help to judge them, because it really does infuriate us that someone would try and pull that on anybody. But sadly in this world there are people that try, so we have the job of exposing them, and we're going to do it. Be warned if you're one of those rogues. Okay, as I said, this has a high content of resin in it. Since the resin is in such high proportions, let's just watch it flare when we heat it up. Now, if you do this to natural opal, it certainly won't burn. But there you go. It burns because it's full of resin. So that's about as valuable as your opal is. You can throw it on the fire and get warm at winter, because that's how it'll end up, all frizzled. And may those rogues that sell it frizzle too.
You're probably aware that opal is the only gemstone where you can literally hold a rainbow in your hand. So the old adage, there's gold at the end of the rainbow, really applies to opal, because of course we set our opals in gold and pendants and other pieces of jewellery, rings And so there is literally gold at the end of the rainbow, but opal is the only gemstone that has a rainbow bonded into the gem. It's because the water molecules in the array, or the diffraction grating, bond with the silica stone of the opal and form a literal rainbow, or the rainbow colours, just in the same way as a rainbow is diffracted through water in a cloud, then in the sky, then the same way that white light is diffracted into the colours of the spectrum through this array. But of course it's not always a rainbow, as in red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet in the rainbow, but in various arrays of random patterns of the colours. And of course the more intense the better. Only gemstone in the world where you can literally hold a rainbow in your hand. It's so exciting. You're probably aware that opal doesn't have to be faceted for it to scintillate. But those brilliant colours will shine even in the ground, under the ground, in the mine. When the miner's light hits it, he can see colours. That's the miner's test. The colour shows up even in the semi-darkness. This is unique to opal. Other gemstones have to be treated, and in fact heat treated. There's hardly a sapphire or ruby in the world that hasn't been heat treated. There's hardly an emerald that hasn't been oiled, and other gemstones need to be treated before they can show colour. Most Ethiopian opal is treated, ammolite's treated, but only opal is completely untreated, completely natural. Those brilliant colours showing up even before they're cut. And then of course the cutting doesn't have to be complicated facets to make them scintillate. Simply has to be ground and then polished in a dome shape, or in just a flat surface, because of the uniqueness of the brilliance of those rainbow colours inside only opal. You're probably aware that only opal is the rarest commercially available gemstone on earth. It is literally so rare. I go to many trade shows and I look at acres of diamonds. I look at hectares of rubies, sapphires and emeralds, just tons of them, floor after floor, display after display, so many of them. And then I'll find little pockets of opal, just a few feet square, with a selection of opal. And that tells me, and always has, that we deal in one of the rarest gemstones. In fact, black opal with colour is the rarest gemstone on earth. I am convinced of it. Fortunately, we have been cutting it for decades, and we've been hoarding it for decades, so it's available through Australian opal cutters, and you have the privilege of offering this unique gemstone that is totally unique in the world to your lucky customers. Did you know that about 1 tonne of opal, rough opal dirt, and potch will produce 1 opal gemstone? In fact, to get a really top gem, the average is over 50 tonnes of dirt has to be washed. Opal dirt has to be washed, and of course that's the average. So there's many lots go through the wash and produce nothing at all. So it's a big gamble for the opal miner, but a lot of work to produce that gemstone that you're showing to your client. A lot of work. Frankly, they're not paying for it. It all comes in at nothing, because the poor old opal miner is taking a punt, taking a risk, and often, in fact, literally 90% of the time, he gets nothing for his effort. Statistically, black opal with colour and pattern is over 1,000 times rarer than fine diamond, over 1,000 times rarer than fine diamond. It is an extremely rare gemstone. It's in the top rarest gemstone list on the internet. It comes in as one of the top rarest gemstones on earth. You're probably aware that Australian Opal Cutters is now training the fourth generation of family members to join the business, and I've been in the business for 50 years this year. 50 years this year. So we have managed to amass a great collection of opal, a bigger collection than anywhere you'll find anywhere in the world. We have a bigger collection than anywhere. Our range is superb and large and exciting. You're probably aware that there's many fossilized opals. Fossil replacement is commonplace. Well, not commonplace, but it occurs in the opal fields. In fact, the Lightning Ridge fields have such good fossils that paleontologists from around the world come to find them, because the fossils that have been opalized often show the complete animal in opal. It's just a statue of an animal when opal replacement has gone through all the bones, and of course the largest example of that is the plesiosaur owned by the Australian Museum, which is a complete plesiosaur that's been opalized. Internationally, much of the opal that you see is fake or treated. Unfortunately, it's sold as Australian opal. I was in Jerusalem, and you can tell that it's fake because it's all the same colour, all the same pattern. And looking at this big range of opal, all the same colour, all the same pattern, I said to the merchant in Jerusalem, "What sort of opal's that?" He said, "Oh, beautiful Australian opal." I said, "Oh, you could be struck by lightning telling lies like that in Jerusalem." Most Ethiopian opal has been treated, and that's why it's cheap. Ethiopian opal will never be sold with a guarantee that it will not lose its colour. By contrast, Australian opal, and all Australian opal cutters opal, has an absolute steadfast guarantee it will never lose its colour. And of course we have our fantastic international lifetime warranty on that and other aspects of the jewellery that we sell. All Australian opal from Australian opal cutters is 100% natural. The black, the bolder, and it's only found in Australia, and it's unique, only found in Australia. And the fact that it can be called only natural with such brilliant colours is a great plus for Australian opal and Australian opal cutters. Australian opals are the best opals in the world. There's a few other countries that produce opal, but nowhere near the quality, the stability, the reliability, and the guarantee that the colours won't change. 93% of the world's opal production, some say 95 to even 97% of the world's opal production is from Australia, and Australian opal cutters are the biggest dealers in Australian opal. As an investor in opal for 50 years now, I know that opal is a good investment, because I know that the prices go up 15% or more every single year. The opal that we've invested in decades ago and put away for you also reflects those lower prices of what they were years ago, because we have been able to stockpile our opal so that our prices don't reflect those increases that have occurred year by year. So you'll always get a bargain from Australian opal cutters. Since we started, Australian opal cutters have always bought direct from opal miners, cut, polished and set into jewellery, the most beautiful opals available from the Australian mine fields, the opal fields of Australia, Cooper Pedy and the Lightning Ridge, and of course the southwest Queensland opal fields where the boulder occurs. Finally, opal is unique. Every single opal is an individual piece, another individual piece with nothing else like it. Just like fingerprints or even humans, we're all different, and so are opals. So they really reflect our own individuality. And when your client loves an opal, They should not leave without buying it.